So what ICE does, and Border Patrol is incredible, too. I mean, Paul Perez and that group is incredible. Mostly Hispanic, by the way. They're like 60% Hispanic. You know, they talk about Hispanic. They're mostly Hispanic, right? And they're unbelievable people. And then they say, oh, we discriminate against. I love Hispanic. They are unbelievable. Entrepreneurial. They have everything. I did great. I did the highest. Nobody ever got numbers like I got from the standpoint of being a Republican. But even if you look at Texas, I won the entire border along Texas, between Texas and Mexico. It never happened before. Nobody's ever done that before. I did it. As a Republican, I did it. I love the Hispanic. And they accuse us of all sorts of things. 60% of the people we're talking about, they're the best people we have, and they're Hispanic. The Border Patrol is largely Hispanic. ICE is largely Hispanic. They're unbelievable people. I don't know how they can take the abuse. They're taking rough people like this, like all of them. We have 10,000 at least. I could have done 10,000 of them. You're lucky I only did like 100. And this isn't even the worst of the group. They have murderers. They have some people we can't use their picture for legal reasons, but they're up for murder in their own country. And we jeopardize their case. Well, we send them back and we coordinate with other countries. A tremendous amount of work. All allowed in here by an open border policy of the worst president in the history of our country. A man that didn't win the election, by the way, it's a rigged election. Everybody knows that now. And by the way, numbers are coming out that show it even more plainly. We caught him. We caught him. So I just want you to know that it's a terrible thing. Here's the book on accomplishments, and this is something. Ooh, I'm glad my finger wasn't in that sucker. That could have done some damage, but you know what? I wouldn't have shown the pain. I would have gone back. What, did you hear that? That was nasty. But I would not have shown the pain. I would have acted like nothing happened as my finger fell off. That was a nasty. I think somebody did that. I think it was him. It was my man. How were you? You didn't do it. I know you did. I know you didn't. So, but here's the book. These are all things we have. I'm going to read a few of the samples, but look at this. These are all, each line is something that we did. Nobody did that before. And it's big stuff, too. Look, we have the hottest country in the world. So, I will read you a few. We ended Biden's stagflation. We were in stagflation. That's a disaster. That's far worse than inflation. As you know, he had the biggest inflation in the history of our country, say 48 years, pick your choice. But they had the biggest inflation in the history of our country. We have it right down to a normal number now. We're going to get it even a little bit lower. Created super high. What we've done with growth is incredible. We created super high economic growth, and America is booming. It's booming. There are thousands of businesses right now that are being built. Many of the biggest factories in the world are being built right in our country. They're not going to other countries. They're leaving other countries. Fourth quarter GDP is on track to pass perhaps much more than 5% growth, and that's despite the fact that we had a Democrat shutdown. They shut down our country, and we had 5%. Nobody in this room has ever heard about 5%. I think it could be 20% if we do it right. If we don't, every time we have good numbers, they raise interest rates. You shouldn't do it. In the old days, if you had good numbers, they'd lower interest rates, or they wouldn't do anything. Here, they try and kill it. They always try and kill success. Over the last 20, 25 years, that's the way. In the old days, if you had good numbers, the market would go through the roof. Today, if you have good numbers, the market goes down. But by the way, we've had the best stock market in history, the best 401ks in history, and we inherited a mess. The numbers that we inherited were way up, and now we brought them, almost all of them, way down. We brought them way down. I mean, I'm not getting. Maybe I have the bad public relations people, but we're not getting it across. We inherited high numbers and we brought them down. And look at gasoline. They have places in the country now, $1.99 a gallon. $1.99, $2.30, $2.50. I guess the average now they're saying is $2.31. I mean, he was at $4.50 and $5 for periods of time. And he went back to the Trump formula, but he didn't do it properly, and he really went back to parts of it because you would have had $8 gasoline if they didn't. But he didn't do it properly. He had people that didn't know what they were doing. Core inflation for the last 3 months is 1.6%. 1.6. Their core inflation was so high that nobody could even calculate it. Under Biden, real incomes declined $3,000. Think of that, $3,000. That's a year. In 12 months, Trump real incomes went up by $2,000 and $3,000 and even in some cases $5,000. It's a tremendous difference. Stock market has set 52 all-time record highs during the course of the 11 months, because this was done on 11 months. Now we are actually officially 12 months as of today. 52 all-time record highs. That means 401ks did great. I have people see me all the time, policemen that guard us really well, and got to know them a little bit. And they said, "Sir, you're making me look so good. My 401k is through the roof. My wife thinks I'm the greatest genius, that I'm a financial genius, like Warren Buffett." He told me that. He said, I think they have better returns than Warren Buffett right now. But he said, all my life, my wife has been criticizing me for not being smart financially. Now, all of a sudden, she loves me more. But we added $9 trillion in value to retirement accounts, saving many people. I mean, they were going out of business. Think of it. We added $9 trillion of value to retirement accounts, savings accounts, and 401ks. That's during the course of 12 months. And I think it's probably 11 months because I don't think they have it for the 12. They have it for the 11. Added $9 trillion of value. Lifted more than 1.2 million Americans off food stamps in 1 year. They would have had another 1.2 million. We would have had, welfare would have gone up. And instead of investing $18 trillion in our country, now it's probably more than that, but $18 trillion and having thousands of plants being built all over the country, you would have had thousands of plants closing all over the country, and you would have had disinvestment, and you would have had welfare going way up. You know, if you look at SNAP, take a look at SNAP, what happened with that? It was at $7 billion, and it came out to over $51 billion. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. The past administration, they had no clue. Or they were really bad, but they basically had no clue. But they did have a concept. I mean, they're still trying to sell the idea of men playing in women's sports. You saw that in the Supreme Court. I mean, some of those justices were fighting for them, too. They were fighting for them. But you saw that just the other day in the Supreme Court. Men playing in women's sport doesn't work. Secured a record-breaking $18 trillion in commitments for new investments. Apple, NVIDIA, SoftBank, Oracle, TSMC, Johnson & Johnson, Eli Lilly and Company, Micron, AstraZeneca, General Motors, Hyundai, Ford, Honda, GE Aerospace, many, many others. I left a Ford plant a week ago in Michigan that they were going to close 2 years ago, and now they just announced that they're going 24 hours around the clock making cars. Tariffs did it. I don't know what the Supreme Court's going to do. I think to me it reads so plainly. It couldn't be plainer. You're allowed to do a license. Tariff is probably less severe than what a license could be. But think of it. You're allowed to do a license, and then they have a clause at the end, something to the effect, or what is necessary, something to that effect. And what is necessary with tariffs. I don't know where there's a case even there, but we've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars, and if we lose that case, it's possible we're going to have to do the best we can in paying it back. I don't know how that's going to be done very easily without hurting a lot of people. But we're waiting for that case anxiously, and we have tremendous national security because of tariffs. and tremendous income. You know, we have, and by the way, no inflation. So everyone said, oh, tariffs will cause inflation. We have no inflation. We have very little inflation. Biden had inflation, and he didn't do tariffs. We had a huge problem. We have a 62% reduction in our trade deficit. So if you had a 1% reduction, a normal president would have a 1%, 2% reduction. Everybody would be high-fiving. Had a 62% reduction. Next year, we won't have a trade deficit. We secured most favored nations agreements to slash drug prices by as much. To me, I think this might be the biggest thing of all. We get zero talk about it. The New York Times had a story way in the back of the paper, a little story about it. I think it's the biggest thing there is when you talk about health care. Drug prices will go down more than ever before for any country, because we were priced at such a level that we were subsidizing the entire world, big place in the world. We were paying 10, 12, 13 times more than other countries. 13 times more, not 13%, 13 times more. A pill that was selling in London for $10 would sell in New York for $130. That's 13 times. More than that even. But we secured most favored nations agreements to slash drug prices by as much as 300, 400, 500, and even 600%, including with Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, Gilead Sciences, EMD, Serenio, and many others. If you look at some of the prices that are coming down, where a price would come down $1,300 coming down to $87. Think of it. So something that was costing $1,300 is now costing $87. And the fake news doesn't want to write about it. That's why I do this. I don't like to do this, to be honest with you. But I do it because got to get the word out. We signed one big, beautiful bill. I call it the Great Big Beautiful Bill, delivering the largest tax cuts in history. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. We made interest on car loans tax deductible for U.S.-built automobiles only. So if you buy an automobile built in the United States, we're not doing it for Germany and Canada and different places. We're doing it only if it's built here. We want them to be built here. A lot of the Canadian auto plants are closing and they're moving into the United States. Same thing with Mexico, same thing with Germany, and same thing with Japan and other countries. They're moving into the United States because of tariffs, because they don't want to pay the tariffs. It's too much. They can't pay the tariffs. So they're coming here. Nothing different than what other smart countries did, but it works better for us under my leadership. It's not done properly, but it's done properly. We have, again, more plants being built than at any time in the history of our country. Passed the largest spending cuts in American history, and that was true in my first. We had a tremendous first term also. We rebuilt our military. We had one of the best. We had the best economy in the history of our country, but we're blowing it away now. When this stuff starts opening up, you're not going to see anything like it probably ever again. We slashed the federal budget deficit by 27% in a single year. Think of that, 27. You could do it 2%, 1%, 0.5%, 27%. And that's with all of the things we have to do, all of the people we have to put on the payroll to get rid of people that are murderers. Again, when you see people in Minnesota that are murderers, these people are fighting to keep them there. And I say to Christie and to Tom Homan, the great people, they're working so hard. Look at the border. The border is now secure. First time, Biden said you couldn't do it. You need legislation. I had no legislation. I said close the border. Within 1 month, we had almost nobody coming in. Now for the last 8 months, nobody came into our country illegally. And I find that hard to believe, because you'd think somebody, because it used to be millions of people just poured into our country. And the people that do that are Democrat sort of aligned. So, I mean, they're not doing me any favors. We had nobody come in. We have a very strong border. We have very few people coming up. They're not going to make the trek because they know they probably won't be coming in, so it's not as hard as you think. But I didn't have to go back. Remember, they said, we need legislation to close the border. They had millions of people coming in a month. We have nobody coming in, and we're getting the murderers out. Murderers, people from prisons and jails. Many countries opened up their prisons and dropped them into the United States. Those are the people we're getting out. And we have a lot of heart. And I said, you got to lighten up on this. We have a lot of heart for people. They came in illegally, but they're good people, and they're working now on farms, and they're working in luncheonettes and hotels and all. And we're looking to get the criminals out right now, the criminals. And I think it's very important. I mean, every once in a while you see a story, we take somebody. He should be out because they came in illegally. So in theory, they should be. But we're focused on the murderers, the drug dealers, the mentally insane. We have a lot of mentally insane killers. I mean, you can't even talk to them. It'd be nice if you could have a little reason, but you can't even reason. These are seriously ill people. You have a couple of countries where they were loaded up. Their mental institutions and insane asylums were loaded to the gills. They couldn't get. They're empty now. But they're filling up because we're bringing them all back. We know where they came from. And every country accepts them. You know, under Biden, they wouldn't say, they had so little respect that they'd bring them there and they wouldn't take them. They say, get the hell out of here. They would be bringing a plane in to land in a country, and they'd put 5 planes on the runway so you couldn't land a plane. So they'd come back with the people that they were bringing back. They don't do that with me. They do that with me. They have problems. They don't do it. They accept them back. They're not happy about it, but they accept them back. Cut a record number of regulations. I promised to eliminate 10 old regulations for every one new regulation. Instead, we cut 129 old regulations for each one added. Think of that. I wanted to do 10. In my first 4 years, I did. When we put on a new regulation, you had to cut 8. This year, I said you have to cut 10. Instead, we cut 129. So every time, so far, can't remain like that, I don't imagine. I hope I can, because we have so much wasted regulation, stupid regulations. Regulations where they go by California, which is a disaster state, with a governor that truly is doing a bad job. He's killing that state. If he ever ran the country, this country would be Venezuela very quickly. Using tariffs slashed the U.S. trade deficit by an incredible 77%. The trade deficit is down, and that doesn't include the last month where we had our best month. We slashed the trade deficit by an incredible 77% in 1 year with no inflation, something that everyone said could not be done. So we had essentially no inflation. In fact, the last month we had almost no inflation. But we slashed the trade deficit by 77%. If you slashed it by 1%, that was good. Again, we did that with tariffs and intelligence. And we did that with November 5th, great election. We secured historic trade deals to reduce barriers on U.S. exports with countries covering 40% of all U.S. trade. Think of that. American exports are up by more than $150 billion this year. People said, oh, we're not exporting. All we do is buy. If you keep buying, you're not going to have a country for very long. So we increased exports by more than $150 billion. Investment in American factories is up 41%. That's a record. Nobody goes 41% up. You go 2% up, 1% up. You go down by 3%. If Kamala got elected, the 41% up would be 41% down. We removed over 270,000 bureaucrats from the federal payroll. That's another thing. So we have, we announce our unemployment numbers, call it unemployment or employment, and they were very good, but we could make them great. But we've slashed tremendous numbers of people off the federal payroll. Because ultimately, if you're on the federal payroll, I mean, we have jobs where they had 10 people for every job. So we cut. Now, if you want to see some good numbers, I'll hire 1 million people. We cut millions of people off the federal payroll. I don't like doing that. But the good news, I don't feel badly because they're getting private sector jobs. And they're getting sometimes twice as much money, 3 times as much money. They're getting factory jobs. They're getting much better jobs and much higher pay. But all I have to do is say, like, what the Democrats do all the time. They hire 1 million people, and then they hire another million, and they load it up, and it says, oh, they only have a 3% unemployment rate. It's a fake rate. So with us, we're proud of the fact that we cut so many because, again, I don't want to cut people. But when you cut them and they go out and get a better job, I like to cut them. And sometimes they have to be forced to do that because, it's like they want to stay where they are. They don't know. And then all of a sudden they end up, we have many cases, Caroline, where people were devastated. They hated Trump. I got caught from my very boring federal job where they had, again, sometimes 10 people to do one job. And they were very upset. And now they ended up with a job where they get paid 3 times more money. They're ending up buying houses. It's like crazy. So they went from not liking me to liking me a lot because it's hard to get. We need people. We need people. It's one of the reasons. I mean, I want to. When you have good people in the farm or good people in hotels and everything else, we want to work with them as much as we can. Under Biden, 1 out of 4 jobs added was a government job. Think of that. So 25% of the jobs added. That's when you know that, that's 25% of the jobs aren't real jobs. But again, I could do that. I could add 2 million jobs right now, would have an unemployed. I could say just hire some more people. I do the opposite. I say get rid of everybody that's unnecessary because that's the way you make America great again. When you have, all these jobs where people are sitting around doing nothing and they get a lot of money by the government, it's no good. But that's what the Democrats do. They show, oh, we were at 4% unemployment. That's a good number. But they just add jobs, or they wouldn't cut. They would never cut jobs. Under Trump, 100% of all new jobs created have been in the private sector. Think of that. Not 1% has gone to federal. So under Biden, 1 out of 4 was a government job. Under Trump, 100% of the new jobs created, 100% came from the private sector. That's how you make your country wealthy and strong and good. We inherited the worst border in history and turned it into the strongest border in history. Illegal crossings have plummeted to the lowest level ever recorded, down 99.999%. That means down 100%. 99.99. Now, we want to find out who that one person is. For 8 months in a row, 0, and these are government numbers, these are not my numbers. For 8 months in a row, 0 illegal aliens were admitted to our country. 0. Nobody came in, unless they came in legally. We have a big process for having people come in legally, by the way. A lot of people are coming in legally. They have to prove they love our country. They have to prove that they're not going to need welfare. A lot of things they have to prove. For the first time in 50 years, we are now seeing reverse migration, where because we're getting all of these illegal people out. People that came in illegally, in many cases, they're criminals in many, many cases. Remember when they used to say that the people that come into our country as immigrants are very nice people, they're wonderful people, they don't commit crime. No, they make our criminals look like babies. They make our Hell's Angels look like the sweetest people on earth. The Hell's Angels are now considered a nice, high-quality person. I like the Hell's Angels. They voted for me. They protected me, actually, believe it or not. But they make our criminals look like babies. These are some of the most vicious people anywhere in the world. They came from the Congo. The prisons, I know the Congo because I ended the war with the Congo and Rwanda. Tough group, very tough group. They came from prisons in the Congo. Some of the toughest, meanest people you'll ever meet. Thank you very much. They allowed them to come into America. These are tough people. Before my election, 100% of net job creation was going to foreign migrants. Since my inauguration, 100% of the net jobs created have gone to American-born citizens. That's a big thing. In other words, we're now taking care of our people. 100% of net jobs created have gone to the American-born people. Before that, we didn't care. designated Tren de Aragua, MS-13, and the Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and we've hit them hard. You've seen what we've done on the water. We're starting to do that on land. The land is much easier, actually. Water is incredible. We did that on the water so that when you do it on the land, they don't go to the water. Nobody's going into the boat business right now, I can tell you. 97% down drugs coming in by water. Think of 97%. Nobody ever heard of that before. They heard 2%, 1%. It went up 2%. 97, and we're looking for the 3%. Who the hell are the 3%? They're crazy. But we've taken out almost 100% of the drugs coming in by water. Now we're going to be very shortly starting drugs coming in by land. We know exactly where they're coming from. Removed tens of thousands of illegal alien gang members, drug dealers, murderers, child predators, human traffickers, fraudsters, savage criminals, and others. We removed them from our country. They're out. They're gone. In some cases, they're so dangerous that we put them in jail because we don't want to give them to their country. Their country doesn't do anything, and they end up coming back. We have some that they're so bad that we don't want to really release them. We want to put them in a jail where we know they're properly ensconced. Think of that. Remove tens of thousands of illegal alien gang members, drug dealers, murderers, child predators, human traffickers, fraudsters, and savage criminals. Why wouldn't you want them removed? The reason is because these are insurrectionists that are doing this work. And, you know, they're going to make mistakes sometimes. ICE is going to be too rough with somebody, or, you know, they're dealing with rough people. They're going to make a mistake sometimes. It can happen. We feel terribly. I felt horribly when I was told that the young woman who was had the tragedy. It's a tragedy. It's a horrible thing. Everybody would say, ICE would say the same thing. But when I learned her parents and her father in particular I hope he still is, but I don't know, was a tremendous Trump fan. He was all for Trump, loved Trump. And, you know, it's terrible. I was told that by a lot of people. They said, oh, he loves you. He was I hope he still feels that way. I don't know. It's a hard situation. But her father was a tremendous, and parents were tremendous Trump fans. It's so sad. It just happens. It's terrible. Halted all refugee admissions to the United States, including from Somalia, which is a terrible, terrible place, and other dangerous places. And we also stopped the pirates because they get the same treatment as the drug boats. So when Somalia, the Somalians, you know what they're good at? That's about the only thing they're good at is they're good at pirating ships at sea, big ships. So you have a huge oil tanker with millions of gallons, millions of barrels of oil. And if it gets hit by a big weapon, the whole thing blows up. And they don't want to fight, because if they do, they're told by their insurance companies, do not hand over the ship. And they're not allowed to have any guns on the ship. They're literally, you have these massive ships being taken over by a Somalian small boat with a big weapon. Because if they hit the side of the ship can blow up to, I mean, you talk about a blow up. Bad, we've seen some bad things happen. And the insurance companies, some of these ships cost more than $1 billion to build. And the insurance companies say, look, we'd rather give them money than take a chance on $1 billion insurance policy. But they don't have to worry about it, because we hit them the same way we hit the people with the drugs in their boat. They don't know what the hell happened. But all of a sudden, there are no pirates at sea. Do you notice? We haven't had a boat taken in a little while. Came out of Somalia, really corrupt place. It's not a country. They don't have government. They don't have anything. I always hate to see this. Ilhan Omar, she comes from Somalia, a backward country, probably the worst country. They say it's the worst country in the world, if it's a country. I don't even think it's a country. There's no organization, no anything. They don't have police. They don't have military. They don't have anything. They just have people running around killing each other and trying to pirate ships. But she'll come here. Comes, and then she wants to tell us how to run our country. The Constitution says that I am entitled to this. I can't stand her. Terminated all taxpayer-funded benefits for illegal aliens and kicked 275,000 illegals off of Social Security. They were illegally getting Social Security. 275,000 people. I'm telling you, it's not that this is pleasurable, but if I were an elected president, this country was going to be destroyed quickly, very quickly. I think within a year, if you had Kamala or a Joe type. I mean, Joe was a disaster, but if you had Kamala, he was the replacement. I was up by like 25 points on Joe, and they said, hey, let's get somebody else. This never happened. Well, I had so many firsts. You're leading somebody by a lot, and they say, oh, let's take him out, let's put somebody. That's like I said to Dana White the other night. I said, you know, Dana, it's like you have a fighter, two fighters, one guy is winning by a lot. And they say, oh, let's take this guy out, let's put a new fighter in the ring with him. That's what happened to me. I was doing great with Biden. The whole campaign was against Biden. All the money was spent against Biden, and all of a sudden I got Kamala. Everyone said, who the hell is she? But that didn't work out too well for them, but never happened before. We are about lots of firsts. Designated English as the official language of the United States of America. We did that very powerfully. And while we're at it, we also took the Gulf of Mexico, and now it's...
Welcome to GB News Tonight. That was President Donald Trump speaking at the White House on the first anniversary, of course, of his inauguration. If you want to keep up to date and keep watching that speech with the president, you can scan the QR code on your screens right now. Of course, you can head to GBN2 on YouTube. But now let's get back to domestic politics. I'm joined now by the Reform UK leader, Nigel Farage, live from the Palace of Westminster. Nigel Farage, welcome to the show. Thank you for patiently waiting there as your friend Donald Trump was speaking at the White House. Nigel Farage, you've just returned from a vote on the situation in the Chagos Islands. Of course, Donald Trump earlier on called it an act of great stupidity. What's the latest?
Yes, an act of great stupidity for no reason whatsoever in capital letters. And that is because what the British government did, they went round in Washington just over a year ago telling the US administration they had to surrender sovereignty of the Chagos legally, and that's why they'd done the 100-year leaseback deal. And the Americans shrugged their shoulders and said, well, this is the least worst option. What the Americans, and by the way, I've been lobbying as hard as I can on this for months, what the Americans have now woken up to is the fact the British did not tell them the truth. There is no legal basis for this whatsoever. And despite this, the government is still pushing on tonight in the House of Commons, throwing back to the House of Lords some improvements and amendments as the House of Lords saw it. I simply don't believe this can go on. I simply don't believe that, you know, when David Lammy told us a year ago, if the Americans didn't like this, we'd stop it. I think what's happening tonight is a charade. I do believe that what Trump has done is to sink this Chagos deal below the waterline. At least I very much hope so.
Nigel Farage, you want to give the right to the Chagosian people. I'm joined in the studio by Misty Mandarin. You want to give those people the right to a referendum, a say. Because isn't it funny how Sir Keir Starmer says that the future of Greenland is uniquely up to the individuals, the citizens of Greenland and Denmark, but the Chagosians don't even get a say?
Yes, no, he believes in national self-determination. He believes in the United Nations when it applies to Greenlanders, but not to Chagosians. And he believes in international law as and when it suits him. And what's extraordinary tonight is we were expecting to vote on some amendments in the House of Commons on giving the British Chagosians a referendum, and that's been ruled out by the government as having no legal force. So we're not even getting a chance to do that. And the Minister, Stephen Doughty, just said at the dispatch box, I've listened to a range of opinions from British Chagosians. Well, you know what? I don't believe him.
Nigel Farage, on last night's show, we carried the interview with yourself and the Speaker, Mike Johnson. You were very firm on Chagos, putting it back on Donald Trump's radar. Suddenly, it is back on Donald Trump's radar. Perhaps you might have had some influence there, Nigel Farage.
Well, I think so, and I think what we did learn is that Speaker Mike Johnson did talk to the President last night. He might have been surprised. I think Mike Johnson might have been surprised just how strong I was on this particular question. So, I can't say game, set and match GB News, but I can say we've been very influential in what we've heard from the President about this Chagos Island surrender overnight. And you know what? As a channel, we should be proud of ourselves for playing our part in this.
Nigel Farage, another huge contentious point, of course, is the cost of this giveaway. One of the votes tonight where we were trying to get full transparency on the cost of the great Chagos giveaway. Are we any nearer to finding out the true figure?
No, you can't find it out because it is adjusted for inflation over 99 years. So on the original settlement, if inflation runs at 2% on average over 99 years, it'll cost the British taxpayer 35 billion. If it runs at 3%, it'll cost the British taxpayer 52 billion. Bear in mind, we're paying for what we actually own ourselves. This is the worst deal I've ever seen in history. It is bad for our national security. It's going to upset the Americans enormously. And whatever we think of some of the things Donald Trump says, remember, without the Americans, we are literally defenseless. It's going to cost the British taxpayer a fortune that it doesn't need to spend, and is an absolute betrayal of the rights of the Chagosians, who, frankly, we've treated terribly for the best part of 60 years.
Nigel Farage, you said yesterday in that interview with Speaker Mike Johnson, you think the special relationship is at its lowest nadir since the Suez Canal crisis. Today, perhaps it's worse. Donald Trump calling this an act of great stupidity, showing total weakness. Tony Blair was often chastised as being America's poodle. Is Sir Keir Starmer worse? Is he pointless?
Well, all I can think is that what Starmer is doing is potentially damaging our relationship. The military base on Diego Garcia is America's most important military base in the world outside of mainland America. If we found this treaty went through and within a couple of years there was serious spying and listening operations taking place against the US forces, we then would have lost one of the most important contributions that we make to that special relationship. So it is long-term, for our own security, very, very dangerous indeed.
Nigel Farage, as I have you, one final quick question, if I may, and that is Zia Youssef was in this studio a couple of weeks ago saying that Reform UK would apply for a full legal challenge, of course, against the decision by Sir Keir Starmer's government to deny 4 million people the right to vote in local elections. I understand there's been a significant breakthrough on that case.
Yes, we were in the High Court today. We've got through the first phase. There'll be a full hearing on the 19th and 20th of February, a full judicial review in the High Court, where we will argue that there is no reasonable justification for cancelling these elections, in some cases for a second year in a row. And whilst it's dangerous to predict what's going to happen in legal cases, I honestly believe we've a very, very strong argument.
You think this legal case could force Keir Starmer into yet another humiliating U-turn?
Well, if we win our judicial review, and we think the odds are in our favour, if we win our judicial review, he'll have to U-turn, and all of those elections would have to go ahead. So we're going to fight all the way on this one, we really are.
Nigel Farage, thank you for joining us on GB News tonight. I know you're very busy. Get back to your votes. Thanks for your expertise, as ever. Thanks for joining us there from the Palace of Westminster. Let's get back to the studio, waiting patiently throughout that very expansive Donald Trump press conference. Hey, it's his birthday. He can talk if he wants to. I'm joined now by the interim First Minister of the Chagos Islands, Misli Mandarin, of course, is my panel tonight. And that's the former Conservative MP and Minister, Sir Ranil Jayawardena, and the journalist and the former press secretary to Paddy Ashdown, who didn't enjoy Donald Trump's press conference one iota, Joe Phillips. Welcome to your Misli Mandarin. Let's turn to you first. A day of mixed fortunes for yourself and the people of the Chagos Islands. We're hearing here the government seemingly refusing to allow these votes, if it's sticking by its guns, and yet Donald Trump may have hoved into view at the 11th hour. Are you hopeful there could be a dramatic intervention and your dream will come true?
Thank you for having me, Martin, and thank you, all the GBNews viewers. It's appalling what the government is doing right now. They had the chance. The most powerful man in the world, right, defensively, is a partner with Britain in the global security. Say that deal is stupid, is wrong, but the Labour government go ahead through it. With only 2 MPs rebel to it. That's everything. You have to remember, those Labour MP, their constituent is watching what they're doing right now. They are watching what we're doing right now. What they're doing to me as British, what they're doing to them, right? Not protect them. So if this is appalling, I'm angry about it. They had the chance to change it today, but they did not.
Let me bring my panel in now. Thank you, Mr. Mendrin. You've been waiting very patiently. In fact, one of those MPs, those rebels, was Graham Stringer. He was sat in that very, very seat there a while ago. He told me earlier on my show he was prepared to lose the whip, if necessary, over this. He thought that his own party, his own leader, his own Prime Minister's deal was shameful. And yet, Joe Phillips, it's been voted through.
Well, it is shameful, and Misley's absolutely right. And in fact, this time last week, I think it was, this bill was going through the Lords, and there was a very good opportunity for the government to halt, just draw back a bit and say, we need to re-examine this. I would just question the involvement of Donald Trump, because it was made very clear by the then Foreign Secretary David Lammy, and I think he said in the House of Commons that if America was opposed to the deal that was being proposed, then it wouldn't go ahead. Now, Nigel is claiming that the US was misled. The US has got enough lawyers and enough people that they could have used their own information and intelligence to say, hang on a minute, this is not a binding legal direction. So why have they left it till now? And also, you know, if Donald Trump saved us, he could buy Chagos.
Well, perhaps you could probably afford it. In fact, it'd probably be a lot cheaper than buying Greenland. That might give the solitude and the safety to the Chagosians they require. But Serrano, bringing you in now, we have to talk about this hypocrisy, do we not? Everybody from the Labour Party parroting this line, and they are correct, by the way, that it should be the right of the Greenlanders and the Danish to decide the sovereignty of Greenland, and yet it hasn't been the right of the Chagosians to decide their own fate. Instead, Keir Starmer just deferred to international law again.
Well, yes, this is the great hypocrisy, and hypocrisy has made this government come unstuck before. Free glasses, free suits, free holidays. The hypocrisy has caught them out already, and again it's catching them out, because if you say, as they have, that the self-determination of Greenlanders must come first, then that surely must be applied in all situations, including with regards to the British Indian Ocean territories. And the problem here for Labour is that they have now put so much political capital behind this. We know that they've already had 13 massive U-turns. We know that this is a government in office and not in power, that they so desperately want to avoid a 14th. I suspect, though, that if they don't take this action, that now the American government is properly interested in this and is going to be forceful about it, that America may well just seize these islands themselves in the months ahead. And I would warn one thing here to Labour, which is that they cannot foresee how unstable the world is going to be in the months and years ahead. The British Indian Ocean Territory has been absolutely crucial for both Britain and the United States in protecting our interests and the interests of our allies around the world.
But it was the Conservative Party who set this ball rolling. Look, we must remember that.
Well, OK, let me be really clear about this.
Kemi Badenoch had a conversation didn't she, with the Speaker?
Well, yes, so let me be really clear about this, Martin, because it's important for political balance that this is set out. You know, yes, James Cleverly did begin a negotiation. I'm not going to pretend otherwise.
He began the giveaway.
He began a negotiation. I'm going to use the technical terms. He began a negotiation David Cameron took on the role as a Foreign Secretary, he immediately scrapped the negotiations. There was no driver for Labour to have to begin them again. They chose to. They didn't have to do that. They're spending £35+ billion. And Kemi Badenoch, alongside Nigel, yes, both had that conversation with the Speaker of the House, Speaker Johnson, yesterday, and that has delivered the change that we need to see.
OK, we have to move on. Cyrano, Joe, Mr Mandarin, thank you to you all. Now, a government spokesperson has told GB News this: the UK will never compromise on our national security. We acted because the base on Diego Garcia was under threat after court decisions undermined our position and would have prevented it operating as intended in future. This deal secures the operations of the joint UK-US base on Diego Garcia for generations, with robust provisions for keeping its unique capabilities intact and our adversaries out. Thank you to Miss Lee. Thank you to my panel. Coming up now in just a moment's time.
You raised the Chinese embassy building in London when we spoke on the telephone, and we have since taken action by calling in.
Despite repeated warnings about national security threats, the Labour government has given the green light to the Chinese mega embassy on the former site of the Royal Mint. What does that mean for the special relationship between us and the Red Dragon? That's next.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Further wet and windy weather in and around the Mediterranean, particularly for parts of southern Italy and Greece. A very soggy day in Athens, likely on Wednesday, with a gusty wind here. Some of that wet and windy weather also affecting parts of Croatia and southern Italy. Northern Italy turning drier, along with Corsica. Drier too on Wednesday across the Balearics, but another weather system sitting in the Bay of Biscay, bringing more showery rain to Portugal and more western parts of Spain. Showers in Madeira, sunny spells in the Canaries.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain. So he can say whatever he wants. A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless, and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. Now, Keir Starmer's government has today given the green light to the hugely controversial Chinese mega embassy in East London. Now, immediately after the decision was confirmed, local residents announced plans to mount a legal challenge. And here is Luke de Polford, the Executive Director of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China, announcing the legal challenge this afternoon.
Ian Jimby of Mishcon Dereya has been instructed by the Royal Mint Court Residents Association to commission Lord Banner, KC, to pursue a legal challenge against the decision of the Secretary of State to grant planning permission pursuant to the application made by the Chinese Embassy in the UK to develop Royal Mint Court into a new embassy.
Here's the question. Could the residents, could that gentleman there cause huge embarrassment for Keir Starmer, derail the entire thing and make sure this mega embassy never sees the light of day? Well, who better to ask than the man himself? I'm joined in the studio by Luke de Polford, the Executive Director of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China, and also, of course, my panel, and that's Serrano J. Wardener and Joe Phillips. Let's get to you, if we could, straight away, Luke de Polford. You've come straight from the scene there, and you come bringing hope. You believe this can be stopped.
Yes, and the reason I do is that we're going to find out if the world's second superpower is any match for UK planning law. And my suspicion is that it's not, because there are many grounds that have really laid all of the groundwork for a fantastic judicial review. Really wonderfully, this is a proper people power story. While Keir Starmer prepares to jet off to China, he's left the job of defending UK national security to a doughty group of Tower Hamlets residents. And what have they done? They've raised, in a day, nearly £90,000 to support a judicial review. I think it's fantastic.
And if people want to get involved in that, what's the process?
Go to GoFundMe and search Save Us from the Mega Embassy, and please do donate to that campaign. It's the only way of stopping this disastrous mega embassy project.
So that could mean that this either gets defeated legally or potentially it just drags on and on and on until potentially this government is out of power. Either way, you seem very hopeful of a victory here.
Well, I'm feeling quite confident, and the reason I am is that many of the points of law have never really been considered before. So this could go all the way to the Supreme Court, and if it does, we're talking years of delay, which takes us into the next government. And we've had many party leaders say, we will kibosh this thing if we're in government when it comes along. That's good news. But more than that, we've got the best planning lawyer in the entire country working on this. So we're quite confident that we can get something out of it. The final thing I'd say is that the government didn't listen to us. We tried to warn them. We are going to drag them to court to give an account of what they told the Chinese or did not tell the Chinese. We're going to get all of their documents through disclosure. And if it turns out that the government gave unlawful assurances to China, there are going to have to be resignations.
It's a magnificent tale, it really is. Now, we've got a quick statement we need to read out. Government spokesperson has told GB News this. This planning decision has been taken independently by the Secretary of State for Housing, and this allows a process that began in 2018 when the then Foreign Secretary provided formal diplomatic consent for the sites. Following extensive negotiations in recent months, the Chinese government has agreed to consolidate its 7 current sites in London into one site, bringing clear security advantages. Final word there. This could be an astonishing victory. Who'd have thought it? The Chinese Communist Party brought down by planning laws.
Well, quite right. But we can only say that we tried to warn them. We weren't listened to. The government should have made the right decision themselves, but they haven't done. They've left it to a group of campaigners, and let's hope that the campaigners win out.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us there. Magnificent stuff. That is Luke de Polford. Thank you, Serrano. Thank you, Joe. We have to deal with that action-packed show. Of course, up next is State of the Nation. Don't go anywhere. I'll see you 3 till 6 p.m. tomorrow.
Expect warm spells
with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Spells of rain and blustery winds overnight for many of us, but it won't be raining all the time. There will be some drier and clearer interludes. However, they won't be long-lasting because low pressure continues to dominate the weather, not just this one, but another low coming along from the west, sending various frontal systems in various bands of rain. One band of rain has been affecting western parts of the UK through the day on Tuesday. That then swings east overnight, accompanied by gusty winds, followed by some drier and clearer interludes, but with a continued breeze with a lot of cloud, temperatures not dipping much further than 5 or 6 Celsius. Now we start the day with the next batch of wet and windy weather pushing into southern counties of England. So a wet start for the south and southwest, some heavy rain turning up along with these gusty winds. But for Wales, the Midlands into northern England, Northern Ireland, at least a dry start with some cloud breaks. So some sunshine early on. But into Scotland, and especially central and northeast Scotland, we've got this other band of rain slowly clearing, some hill snow associated with it, and again, gusty winds coming in from the southeast. And we've got these two bands of rain moving south to north across the UK, so most areas seeing some rain at times throughout the day on Wednesday. The heaviest and most frequent downpours, Wales and the southwest, again with gusty winds not quite as strong as Tuesday, but unpleasant nevertheless. Thursday, it's a case of spot the difference. There'll be a lot more cloud once again and further spells of wet weather. Particularly persistent spell of rain is expected across central and eastern Scotland, with increasingly some hill snow associated with it. That could cause some issues, and it's going to stick around for the rest of the week. Otherwise, for many places, it's rain on and off, but some drier interludes at times.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. Oh, definitely please enter. It is real, and that one text has just made my life 100% better.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain. So he can say whatever he wants. A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation tonight.
We will